they've already been out. They've been in the Pony. I think we've been including them in our email. May 23rd and 24th is the reading. June 2nd is the math. And then we have the expedited retakes. And June 14th is the reading, and June 16th is the math. And we'll go over what all that means in just a few minutes. So here's just some testing tidbits for you. All the students in grade 3 take the reading and math SOL. It's different. Those of you who've had children who've been through here before, they used to have to take the science, social studies, math, and reading. It was like 6 days of testing. So the state finally agreed that it was too much for third graders, so now there's just the 2 assessments. And when you learn about the math, the adaptive math we'll be taking, it's even better for the kids. They have as much time as they need. We start promptly around 9:15 in the morning. If they need all day, they can have all day. If they need longer, Mr. Smith will be calling you saying, they're still going, can we keep them? That usually doesn't happen, but of course now that I put it out in the universe, it'll be somebody's child. It'll probably be mine, Mr. Smith, if he can stay all night. So you can tell there's no need to rush. It'll all get done. They're all online, and there's technology-enhanced items, and those are basically where they have to click and move things, and they've been familiarized with them throughout the years, so it's not going to be anything that they're unfamiliar with. They can use scrap paper, Post-its, they can have one highlighter. Whatever we used in class, they can use. So we've been using graph paper to line up with multiplication, division, also addition, subtraction with regrouping. They know how to fold their paper. They know how to do it. As long as we've been using it, they're allowed to use it during the test. So nothing's really going to change for them during the test. Just instead of it being an e-card or classroom test, it's the SOL, and it's going to be we don't do it in the rooms, and it's in the library. The one thing that is important, and we put this on there because it's new, because we've learned more and more kids have electronic devices and cell phones. They even have nicer cell phones than I do, which I'm a little jealous of. But there's absolutely no electronics in the testing environment. That goes for us, the students. If they are caught with a cell phone or any kind of electronic device, it counts as a testing irregularity, and you'll be getting, not that your child needs to stay longer, phone call from Mr. Smith, like, hey, we need to talk, kind of phone call. Yep. So here's the reading one. It's different from the test that we used to take when we were growing up. There's no longer those questions where was the setting of the story? Oh, it's right here. We call them the go back and put your finger on it type of questions. These are more of the higher level thinking questions. We call them level 3, level 4 questions, where they have to use clues from the text, their own knowledge, to figure out, because we're trying to make higher level thinkers in the 21st century, and that's what this is doing. It includes word study, and it's all stuff we've been doing, like root words, prefixes, suffixes, how many syllables, dictionary skills, reference materials. We've done a ton of reference material work in the classroom through research, and the vocabulary, using context clues to decode words. So here's just a reading at a glance. That I have the link for. I know you're all trying to squint. So basically, they're tested over 2 days. In the past, what the SOL test has included for 3rd grade, and looking back over the last few years' tests, there was always 2 realistic fiction, a nonfiction, 1 poem, and some type of functional format. I put formal, sorry, it was late when I was putting this together. Functional format text, which is one of those how-to, following a recipe, an advertisement, which they use 80% of their adult life, that type of reading, that's on there. There are 47 questions, and 4 of them are field questions. We don't know which ones are the field questions, and field questions don't count for them, they don't count against them. It's the state just testing out, seeing what standards they might start embedding, and it's just the state driving us crazy. Over here, this is all online, and on your paper we have this as a resource. This is what we call the SOL blueprint. It's everything that they'll be tested on, and the breakdown of it. So you can see for word, yeah, it is small. Word analysis, strategies, reference materials, so there'll be 7 test questions. And then it tells you what standards from 2nd grade are covered, and what standards from 3rd grade are covered. And they kind of, as you see, they overlap. So it's not all of these. Like I know 2.6 AC is kind of embedded within 3.4 A, F, and G. We just know that because some students take an alternative assessment and you kind of just memorize it after so many years. And you can see like 17 question is basically those comprehension questions. Can they answer? Can they go back and make those inferences, drawing conclusions, all those type. And then you'll see there's the 7. So it gives the breakdown of what's going to be tested. And like I said, there's nothing you really need to do because all of this we have covered in class and it's stuff they know. Okay, the math matters. This is the most important. Well, not the most important. This is the new. It's new for all of us this year. So forgive me for looking back to this a lot. So basically it's different because the test is going to be completed in one day. I know you're like, oh my goodness, because in the past they've had over 50 questions. It's not the 50 question types of tests anymore. It's 32, I believe. The item difficulty, it's a computer adaptive test. So the item difficulty depends on how the students answer each question. So the hard part for them is, and the state just changed this mid-year for us, which, yay state. So what happened is we took our e-cards and they were always able to mark for review, go back and check. They can't do that. So we took, I think it was when we had all the snow days and we finally were able to come back when the roads were clear. They could go back and a lot of the kids started like, oh my gosh, we can't go back. We're like, yeah, it changed. So, but they've been familiar with it. We've been doing it when we do online assessments that they can't go back. We just tell them mark it and then we go over it with them, but they're familiar with it. And they can't review for later, so they go forward. The test won't let them go forward without giving an answer. So you don't have to worry about them skipping an answer and just jump, 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 jump. Oh, I'm done, and then we find out how'd you get a 0. They have to put an answer, which is good. It has some multiple choice and technology enhanced questions. From what I understand and what I read online, and Mr. Smith and Liz, if I'm saying it wrong, please correct me. The TEI items will have 3 answer options. Some. And then the multiple choice will have 4 to choose from. Unless it's more than one choice, then that's usually about 5 choices. But it usually says, from what I read, please select the correct answers. And does the math one tell them how many? I know the reading, if it's more than 1, it tells them select the 2 correct answers. Is math, it's new. In the past it has, but I don't know with the new adaptive.
Well, and I think that this is where a lot of the field tests, items might come into play. So it's just, the message is, if there's anything to tell your children is to slow down and read the directions, especially for every single question, because the directions might be different for those technology enhanced items as they are the typical multiple choice. The typical multiple choice questions will only have 4 answers to choose from, unless it's like a pairing. If it says, it gives you an option of, who is second and 6th in this line, something to that effect, and then it'll, give you two names per choice. But yeah, they're gonna try to test some things out. Some of them are gonna be a little bit different than others. So you may get a question in which you have to, order things, 5 or 6 different items. I think that the kids are probably going to see some stuff that are just a little bit different this year.
So I'm confused between the difference between a multiple choice question and a technology enhanced question.
The multiple choice is like what we're familiar with growing up, what we took. 4 answers, pick 1. Yeah, and solve your problem. Do you have the correct answer? Yes. The technology enhanced might be, for example, in the past when it's been, and you can see on the lease test, it'll give you a number like 3,426. You have to round it to the thousands, the hundreds, the tens place. And what it does is it gives you a bunch of numbers at the bottom, and you have to click and drag and put them underneath the correct one.
Okay.
So it's a lot of click and dragging. Temperature, there's usually always a temperature one on there. Not that we look at the test, we look only at the release test. I'm saying that. And
The release.
just the release. And you can see them online. They have previous practice tests, and we'll give you the resource. but you click and it'll drag up to where it goes. So, and the kids actually, when we practice this stuff, they can figure it out faster than we can. And the one thing that I've learned is that whenever it's a technology enhanced question, it gives special directions at the top in gray. So we tell them, look for the gray box. Watch, it's not gray this year. I apologize if I made that mistake. But it only assesses the standards of learning for 3rd grade, which is really good because the first year I gave the SOLs, it literally, a question was, what is the shape of the door? And the kids were like, they were overthinking it, and believe it or not, a lot of kids got it wrong. And I was like, what? Are you kidding me? But that was back in the paper pencil days. So that means it won't assess standards that are above 3rd grade level, and it won't assess standards that are below 3rd grade level. From what I was reading and what I understand, it's going to start kind of at those mid-range thinking questions, and based on how they answer, it'll either go to those like level 4 type questions, or go down to the level 1 more basic questions. So, which the surface level, which there's nothing wrong, it's just a different way every kid shows what they know differently, which is better for the students. So there's 2 sections. There's no seal code. What that is in the past, they've had to enter their own, they get their own special test. So, not special test, but like, her test would be different, the same questions, but different orders from all of us. And when they had the break, they had to enter another seal code. They don't have to do that. It's one less step for them. They can't skip questions. Like we said before, they have to give an answer. And halfway through, there's going to be a stop sign. So halfway through, even though it is one day the test, they do get a break. Here's where the difference is. It's a lot better for the students. Instead of giving them a 50 problem test, which is just insane, it's the new one is 35% shorter for the students. So it has 28 operational, that's what they're getting tested on. 28 of those questions are going to count towards their score. The other 4 are field questions. So it's 32 questions. If anything, it's going to be less than what they're familiar with, which is good because our e-cards are typically a lot harder, we've learned, than the SOLs. I'm hoping that pattern continues. The old test, it was the 40 counted questions, but 10 were those field test type questions. So it's better for kids.
Ready?
See.
What? Were you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I know this is a lot, so we have time for questions. Can you actually get this? It's a piece of now. So if we do run out of time, we're going to have you write questions down, and we'll just send an email with all the answers and a letter home with all the answers. So what happens now? This was new last year. It's called expedited retakes. It's for those kids that just miss passing. So any student who gets between a 375 and a 399, and that's the worst 399 ones, you all had a paper sent home where you had the option to either have your child take the retake or not take the retake. It's up to you as a parent, and you know your child. They have the option of taking a retake. So we need to have your permission, and you do get a phone call, not from us. Mr. Smith gets to join. He's our phone. He's like our secretary through the SOL. So he gets to make all the fun phone calls, the good and the bad. If they fall into that retake category. So what's going to happen is those 2 days on the first slide, June 14th and 16th, those are the expedited retake days. So what happens is we get a printout and saying, okay, we don't know what they did wrong. It'll just say what strand. So it might be number sets. So what we do, you don't have to do anything at home with them. We take care of it here at school. We create an intervention plan to help them. So if they did fine in computation and everything, and we realize it's that number sense, we know third grade teachers, it's 9 times out of 10 the rounding, so we'll just hit the rounding and do all the remediation here with them. It's not going to be anything outside of their regular day. We do guided math. We'll just pull them for maybe 2 groups, have them do the practice, do the games to reinforce it. We have the computer activities that reinforce it, so it'll all be set for them. So you don't have to stress about anything.
And just real quickly on that, even no matter what you fill out on your paper, you know, when you send it back into school, if your children do qualify for an expedited retake, we would never give them that again without having contact with you personally. Just a quick story: last year, 5th grade takes reading, math, and science. Last year we had a student take the reading twice, take the math twice, and then when it came to science, sure enough, there came that 392. So I made the phone call to the parent because they filled out the form that said, hey, you know, yes, I want them to do retakes, and by then they were like, no, this is just crazy. We've already taken 5, we're not going to take any more. Totally understood. But just know that whatever you fill out on that form, I'm going to call you anyway, just to make sure.
Here's some resources that are available. We're going to post this on our 24/7 site so you can click the paper also over there that, I can never say her last name, Liz, I'm sorry,
Scheuer.
Scheuer, I'm sorry. I know it's been all year and I still can't. At least I know the kids' names. So we're good there. She reformatted for us so it looks nice and pretty. We're also going to have that posted. Most of the links are already on our 24/7 site. There's nothing you really need to do to prep them. What I do suggest is as the parent, go in and look at it, just so you're familiar what they're going to ask, because you'll be surprised. I'm not afraid to admit I totally failed the 5th grade math. When my son took it last year, I was overwhelmed and things like I don't even remember came back. I did take a retake and I did pass, so I was happy there. So, but they are on there. Get yourself familiar with them so you know, and you'll see it's not what we're familiar with growing up. It's a whole different type of test. Yeah, and now if you have any questions.